One of the most important figures in gaming today is the legendary action game director Hideki Kamiya. Gamers today might know him as the co-founder of Platinum Games, but before creating the Bayonetta series, he was a game director at the Capcom-owned Clover studio. The smaller studio was designed to have more creative freedom, but unfortunately its sales weren't good enough for Capcom, and Clover Studios shut down after less than 3 years. They released a handful of games like the Beautiful Joe series and God Hand, but the surprise standout from the studio was the 2006 PS2 masterpiece Okami. Unfortunately, it was released just 2 months before the PS3 in North America, which led to underwhelming market performance despite high critic scores. Over the years, Okami has gained a cult following and has gotten a re-release with motion controls on the Wii, followed by an HD remaster on PS3, then ports on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. I played the 2018 remastered port on the Nintendo Switch 2, and after 34 hours in-game, here's my review of Okami HD. Okami is an action-adventure game inspired by Japanese Shinto mythology, and it may be the most beautiful game I've ever played. The art style is based on traditional sumie ink paintings, and it really does look like a gorgeous handcrafted piece of art come to life. The game takes place in a painted fantasy version of ancient Japan and is fully explorable as Amaterasu, the white wolf reincarnation of the Shinto sun goddess. Amaterasu and her tiny companion Isun are tasked with ridding the land of a terrible curse and restoring humanity's faith in the gods once again. The story features retellings of famous Japanese myths like the nine-headed dragon Orochi, the legend of the bamboo cutter, and more. The story is very endearing, and even the smallest side characters, like a literal scrap of paper, are incredibly charming and have great emotional moments. There's a live day-night cycle which changes certain quests and either unlocks or restricts certain things in the game, and exploring the painted open world is breathtaking. Okami is all about optimism and having faith when things get tough, and you can really feel that theme being driven home in every scripted moment. There's a lot of silly, slapsticky type humor, so you're never taking anything in the game too seriously, and it makes you love the characters even more to see their full range of emotions. The pacing's also very well done. At 34 hours, I was never bored, and I felt like the action always picked up right when I wanted it to. I played on Nintendo Switch 2 and the game ran at 1080p 30fps docked and 720p handheld, and both modes ran very smoothly with almost no problems except for one pretty big one. Unfortunately, Okami HD on the Switch has a bug that crashes the game every now and then after saving. As far as I know, this is the only platform the bug's on. It would happen to me frequently, a couple times a session at least, and it was pretty annoying, but at least it waited till after I saved. Other than that, Okami is an unforgettable and gorgeous experience with some fantastic story moments and historical characters you won't forget. Now let's talk about the gameplay. The action combat Hideki Kamiya is known for is on full display in Okami, but it's paired with wider exploration and adventure the genre isn't typically known for. I came into this thinking I was getting Bayonetta, but it actually ended up feeling more like a Zelda game with Bayonetta-style combat. While exploring the world, Amaterasu will encounter a variety of enemies with different strengths and weaknesses, which you can counter with your own equipable weapons or abilities. Your main weapons are your reflector, rosary, or glaive, and depending on where you equip them, they'll have different effects, so trying out lots of combinations is encouraged. The celestial brush techniques are a central mechanic and consist of 13 unlockable abilities to use both in and out of combat. With the celestial brush, Amaterasu can do things like create a gust of wind, summon a fireball, or even change day to night by stopping the action and drawing a certain brushstroke right on the screen. Players need to collect ink to use their abilities, and upgrades are earned by defeating more powerful enemies and exploring the world. Most versions use the joysticks to control the brush, but the Switch and the Nintendo Wii versions use motion controls instead. I tried the optional motion controls on the Switch version, and they were pretty cool, but I mostly stuck to the traditional joysticks so I could have a little more control over my movement. The brush techniques are fun to use, but sometimes the game won't register an input from the brush unless it's exactly the way the game wants it to be. Now, I didn't say exactly perfect, because sometimes you'll draw what seems to be a perfect pattern, only for the game to reject it in favor of some atrocity you drew as a joke. This is especially true in the game's QuickTime events, but other than that, the celestial brush techniques are a really fun and unique mechanic. The dungeons are well designed and are very good at exploiting the player's newest abilities, and the boss fights are intense and challenging, but still balanced and fair. There's also side activities like digging for treasure, fishing, and feeding animals that give Amaterasu more praise, which can be used to level up your combat prowess. Overall, even though the celestial brush controls can be tricky sometimes, Okami's combat is a fun and unique experience that plays beautifully into its art style and themes. Okami HD is available on PS4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, and PC through Steam for $19.99. If you have the means, the physical PS2 version goes for about $25, the Wii version for about $10, and the HD version on PS3 for around $30. After I learn Japanese folklore, I'll give this a score from 1 to 4. On the revolutionary Dinkus 4-star scale, Okami HD gets 4 out of 4 stars. I was really surprised by how different Okami was than I expected and how much I loved it. This game is so unique and beautiful. It's really something every gamer should experience. I came in expecting a linear action game like Devil May Cry, but I got a beautifully crafted action-adventure game that stands toe-to-toe with the Zelda series. Okami is now one of my most beloved video game experiences that came as a complete surprise, and at just $20, it's a no-brainer for anyone who likes action-adventure games. Buy this game at full price and play it right away.